You know the feeling. You send a message, and then you wait. You watch the screen. You replay the last conversation, searching for the moment something shifted. And when they finally respond, warmly, casually, as if nothing happened, the relief is so intense, it almost feels like love. But then the distance returns, and the cycle begins again. If you have lived inside that loop, you already know it doesn't feel like a bad relationship. It feels like the most important one you've ever had. That is not a coincidence. That is the pattern working exactly as it was designed to work. Not by anyone's conscious intention, but by something much older and much deeper than intention. This is the anxious-avoidant cycle. And today we are going to understand it from the inside out. To begin, we need to go back to the beginning. Not the beginning of this relationship, but the beginning of you. John Bowlby, the psychologist who gave us attachment theory, spent decades studying how early bonds between children and caregivers shaped the emotional architecture of the adult mind. His central insight was both simple and profound. The way we learn to get love when we were small becomes the template we carry into every relationship we form as adults. Not a conscious template, a felt one, a bodily one, a pattern so deeply wired that it operates beneath our awareness, shaping what we find familiar, what we find attractive, and what we find unbearable. For some people, early caregiving was inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes absent, sometimes overwhelming. The child in that environment learned a particular strategy: stay alert, stay close, monitor the caregiver's mood, and never fully relax, because safety could disappear without warning. That child grows into an adult who experiences love as something that must be constantly earned, constantly watched, and constantly chased. We call this anxious attachment. For others, early caregiving rewarded self-sufficiency. Emotional needs were met with discomfort, distance, or dismissal. The child learned another strategy: need less, feel less, keep your inner world private, and protect yourself by never fully depending on anyone. That child grows into an adult who experiences closeness as a threat to their sense of self. We call this avoidant attachment. Now here is the part that seems almost cruel in its elegance. These two patterns are magnetically drawn to each other. The anxious person finds the avoidant partner compelling in a way they cannot quite explain. There is something about the distance, the mystery, the moments of warmth followed by withdrawal that feels achingly familiar. Not comfortable, familiar. And familiarity to the nervous system registers as safety, even when it is anything but. The avoidant person, meanwhile, finds the anxious partner's warmth and pursuit initially reassuring. Someone who wants them this much, who reaches for them this consistently, feels like proof that they are lovable. But as closeness deepens, the old alarm sounds. The walls go up, the distance returns, and so the cycle turns. The anxious partner chases, the avoidant partner withdraws. The withdrawal intensifies the chase. The chase intensifies the withdrawal. Both people are doing exactly what their nervous systems were trained to do. Neither is the villain. Both are in pain. But why does it feel so addictive? This is where the psychology becomes genuinely fascinating. When connection is intermittent, when warmth and distance alternate unpredictably, the brain's reward system responds in a way that consistent, stable love simply does not produce. Neuroscientists sometimes compare it to a variable reward schedule, the same mechanism that makes certain games or habits so difficult to put down. You never know when the reward is coming, so you never stop watching for it. The uncertainty itself becomes the engine of obsession. For the anxious person, every moment of warmth from the avoidant partner feels like a victory hard won. The relief is disproportionately intense, precisely because the anxiety was so high. That intensity gets confused with depth. The relationship feels more real, more significant, more alive than calmer connections ever have. And so the anxious person may unconsciously interpret the pain of the cycle as evidence of how much they love. Carl Jung might have recognized something else at work here as well. He wrote about the way we are drawn to people who carry what he called our shadow, the parts of ourselves we have buried, denied, or never developed. The anxious person, who has perhaps suppressed their own need for independence and self-containment, may find those qualities magnetic in the avoidant partner. The avoidant person, who has perhaps buried their own longing for deep connection, may find the anxious partner's emotional openness both terrifying and irresistible. Each person is, in some sense, reaching toward a wholeness they have not yet found in themselves. This does not make the cycle healthy, but it does make it meaningful. And understanding the meaning is the first step towards something better. Erich Fromm, in his quietly revolutionary work, The Art of Loving, offered a distinction that cuts through the confusion at the heart of this pattern. He drew a careful line between the experience of falling in love, that overwhelming, consuming rush of merger and intensity, and the practice of loving, which he described as something far more deliberate, far more demanding, and far more sustaining. Fromm suggested that what many people call love is actually a form of hunger, a desperate need to escape the pain of separateness, to dissolve into another person, to feel whole through possession or pursuit. He was not dismissing that hunger. He understood it as one of the deepest human experiences. But he was clear that hunger, however intense, is not the same as nourishment. In the anxious-avoidant cycle, both partners are often feeding a hunger rather than building a love. The anxious partner hungers for proof that they are enough, that they will not be abandoned, that the connection is real. The avoidant partner hungers for closeness while simultaneously fearing its cost. The relationship becomes a place where both hungers are perpetually activated and never quite satisfied. And that perpetual activation is precisely what makes it feel so consuming. So what does it take to step out of this cycle? The honest answer is that it takes more than understanding the pattern, though understanding is where it begins. It takes a willingness to sit with the discomfort that the cycle was designed to avoid. For the anxious person, that means learning to tolerate uncertainty without immediately reaching for reassurance. It means recognizing that the urge to chase is not love. It is fear wearing love's clothing. It means asking, gently and honestly, whether the intensity of this connection is nourishing you or simply keeping you occupied. And it means beginning to build, slowly and steadily, a relationship with your own inner steadiness, so that your sense of worth is no longer entirely dependent on whether someone responds to your message. For the avoidant person, it means something equally difficult, allowing closeness to exist without immediately interpreting it as a threat to the self. It means recognizing that the walls built in childhood were necessary then, and may be costing you something precious now. It means practicing the small, uncomfortable acts of emotional presence, not because vulnerability is easy, but because connection requires it. And for both, it means moving toward what Fromm described as the active practice of love, not the passive experience of being swept away, but the daily, chosen work of care, honesty, respect, and genuine knowledge of another person. That kind of love is quieter than the cycle. It does not produce the same electric charge, but it is the kind that can actually hold you. One more thing worth saying, and it is perhaps the most important: neither the anxious nor the avoidant pattern is a life sentence. These are learned responses, not fixed identities. They formed in conditions that no longer exist, and they can, with patience and self-compassion, be gently unlearned. Not all at once, not perfectly, but enough to change the quality of every relationship that follows. You are not broken, you are patterned. And patterns, unlike wounds, can be rewritten. If this video helped you see something more clearly, consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And if you want to go deeper into the psychology of how we love and why we struggle, Inside the Labyrinth has more waiting for you. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.